Welcome to the Conscious Love Global Summit. Thank you for joining us today. We're here to open this conversation around conscious love and how it affects conscious love relationships. This is an exciting time for us as our book now is part of a profitable philanthropy project. And by you being here, you're helping us raise awareness and funds for this incredible cause. Please share this summit with everyone you know, especially those who you know this will make an impact for in their life. Send them to consciouslovebook.com/cause for them to get more details. My name is Alon Torres, and I'm the featured author in the multi-authored #1 Amazon best-selling book, international best-selling book, Conscious Love, Enlightened Relationships and Soulful Sex. I'm the founder of Power Couples Project, where I help these very strong personalities to let go of their resentment they feel when they feel held back from being able to live their dreams. And they're trying to loosen the reins for what they have as far as expectations of how things should or shouldn't be. Because ultimately they want to stay attracted and they want to be the ultimate team. Now on to my featured guest expert, PJ. Love this guy. He's incredible, a dear friend of mine. PJ, his mission in life is simple. Live, love deeply, and teach others to do the same. His commitment to love has earned him the title of Love Guru, which causes him to smile and inspires him to live, love, and share more fully every day. PJ is a lifelong motivational speaker, spiritual teacher, and relationship coach. He is also the creator of Learning to Love, a 4-step program designed to help people reconnect with their heart and learn to love themselves, their lives, and others more completely. Despite his disability, which was expected to take his life by 7, he chose to live and live well. 40 years later, PJ is a 10th degree black belt, martial arts and women's self-defense instructor, meditation teacher, former wheelchair athlete, adventure seeker, watercolorist, author, and in the National Hall of Fame for people with disabilities. PJ loves his life and lives every day to inspire others to love and live theirs. I'm so excited to have you with us here today, PJ. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, brother. I'm super glad to be here. It's a real honor. It's funny because, you hear your own bio and you think, oh man, is that really me? Have I done that? But I have. I've lived 40 years longer than I was supposed to. And I'm a pretty fortunate guy to have lived an outstanding, remarkable life so far.
Yeah, no, you're an incredible man. So I'm excited to share you with everyone right now. And so I'm just going to jump right into the whole topic around conscious love. And so specifically, what does conscious love mean to you?
Conscious love is the willing exchange of oneself for oneness. And I can go much further down the rabbit hole, but let's listen to that one more time. Conscious love is the willing exchange of oneself, ego-based, right? For oneness, unity, and connection. And that's what life is really about. It's about reconnecting. One of the words that I really love is the word shalom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thinks, and I'll make it brief, but everybody thinks the word shalom means, hey man, peace, brother, peace be with you, right? But if you look at the original root of the word, it actually means to restore to wholeness, that which has been fragmented. And this is really important because this talks about creation. This talks about separation. And so this is the process when people say shalom, it's the process of saying, hey, may the peace of the original divine, the original P-E-A-C-E, when we were one P-I-E-C-E, one piece of the divine, may that go with you. And so this is what I mean when I say it's a willing exchange of oneself for oneness. It's about coming back together and being reconnected with all.
Wow, that's incredible. What an incredible answer. So conscious love, this concept, do you feel like it's important now?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Conscious love is so important right now. And here's the thing, right? We're a global society. And so many people ask me, and ironically, and I'm going to call myself out, ironically, we're doing this recording on July 4th. And I say that because of what I'm about to say. People say, they ask me all the time, well, you're not a patriot? And I'll say, I'm not. I am an American, but I'm not a patriot because I'm a global citizen. Just like everybody else listening, we're all global citizens. And now with the advent of the internet and planes being so available for people and travel around the world is so easy and so accessible now compared to the way it used to be even 20 years ago or 30 years ago, the connections are so much better that we're global citizens. And so conscious love is critical because it means taking time to really look at ourselves, focus in on how we feel love, where in our body we feel love, and what it is that we want to say and express to other people to create connection throughout the world. It's critical now, right now, when we live in neighborhoods, when we don't even know our own neighbors. So it's super
So true.
important to start to come back to our own connection with ourselves, learn to love ourselves. When we learn to love ourselves, then we have ample enough love to share with other people, and then we can reach out and make that connection. When we make that connection, we start to create that sense of unity and oneness again.
So you're alluding to the massive impact that it'll have when this ripple effect really starts to take place and form.
Oh, I think it already is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the way we're using the internet in terms of like the riots that were happening in Egypt, right, a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. And the way the massive amount of people who are sharing their wisdom and their knowledge and just their generosity over the internet, on YouTube, for example, people are watching videos all over the world. And so it's already having an impact. And so if you truly want to have an impact on the world, now you can. The question is, what kind of impact do you want to have? And so it's a
Yeah.
real question about who you are and what's your own integrity. When you realize the depth of your integrity and what it is that you want to say or what wants to be said through you more specifically, when you allow that space, then we create an amazing connection and the world reunites and comes together. And that's what it's all about. One of the coolest stories that I remember of, and this isn't necessarily about love, but it's very similar, about the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, is they believe that we were originally one color, right? We were one people, we were one race. And then according to their myth, they went out, and I say myth without any disrespect, but according to their tradition, we went off in the 4 different directions and became the 4 different colors. And then we return, they believe in some point in the future, which I believe is now, we'll begin to return and we'll start to mix the races again and we'll become one race again. And I believe we're in the very early stages of that. And I think that global consciousness and conscious love is a part of that, because we are looking past race, we are looking past religion, we are looking past things that typically would separate us, you know, culture or just geography. We're looking past that and we're creating unity and a oneness. You know, Peace Corps, what's that about? Same thing. We're going beyond the separation to create connection.
Wow. Incredible answer, man. And you're totally right. Like it seems like society now is becoming a melting pot where we're all coming back together, where we were so segregated and separated really from each other. And whether that was through divine orchestration and it needed to happen for that time period or whatever, but now we're starting to come back together, and everyone is realizing that we're all the same, we're all one, we're all interconnected, and we're all brothers and sisters.
You know, what's
So
really beautiful is, I want to say 2 things if I can.
go
Sorry,
for it. Yeah, no, go for it.
excited, right? So 2 things. One, we are all like one race. The truth is that we just are. If you take the skin off of a person, like hopefully nobody's going to do that, right? But if you do, you can't tell the difference biologically between one race and another. And so that being said, for me, when the races come together, I don't know about how anybody else thinks, but I think they make the most beautiful babies. They make the most beautiful people, physically the most beautiful people. And I think they're the brave ones because they don't necessarily have connection with a particular race or particular culture. And they sometimes float around like, well, I don't really belong to this culture and I don't really belong to this culture. And I try and fit in and other people push me away. And so it's really rough, but they're the brave ones that are coming ahead of time and looking and showing us how incredibly beautiful we can be. And what's cool about that is every culture throughout the world and throughout history, as far as I'm aware, and I studied some of this in college, every culture finds different ways of beautification, right? And so everybody wants to be beautiful. Everybody, why do people want to be beautiful? They want to be beautiful so that they find they're attractive to other people. When they're attractive to other people, what happens? Connection, unity, oneness, right? The act of sex is prayerful. It's unity. It's coming together of both the masculine and the feminine to unite as one. It's all prayer. You know, when you said earlier, you're like, oh yeah, we're all just brothers and sisters anyway, right? When I was 5, I remember standing outside of my apartment with 2 of my little friends, Kim and Todd. I still remember their names. And I remember saying to them, oh, God is in that tree. And God is in that bush, and God is in that blade of grass, and God is in you, and God is in me. And because God is in you and God is in me, that makes us brothers and sisters. I wasn't raised in the church. I wasn't raised in the synagogue. I wasn't raised in the temple or the mosque. That's just who I was. And I really love that part about me. And that's a story I still remember because it was so poignant for me too. I didn't know what I was saying. What I knew is it was being said through me, and I was only knowing it in the moment, which was beautiful to me.
It's really beautiful. It really
Thanks.
is, man. It's incredible that you had that kind of awareness in, whether it was conscious or unconscious, but back then you had it,
Mhm.
you had that foresight to know what was really there and the truth that was there.
Mhm.
So I want to jump into this question. So what challenges did you face that motivated you to become the expert of love in the love field that you are? What is the roots? Where do the roots come from? I want to hear your story. I'm really curious.
All right. So I'll keep it relatively short, but I grew up with an amazingly loving, kind mom. And, my dad was a little harsh sometimes, but, did the best that he could. And he was actually an adopted father. But he was still like, he's the man that I call dad, right? He's the one I grew up with. And so I always had this heart for love and compassion and putting other people first. And my mom used to say, stop being a martyr, meaning stop putting other people before you. She wanted an authentic, honest answer about what I wanted. Like, did I want the last pork chop, for example, right? And I'm like, no, you can have it. And she's like, I don't want it. I want to know, do you want it? No, it's okay. You can have it. She's like, stop being a martyr. But that was how I was, and it wasn't because of the way I was raised. It's just the way my heart was. I remember, the story is already longer than it was supposed to be, that I remember when I was 10, at 9 or 10, a natural disaster happened on the other side of the world, and I made it my fault, right? I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I must have caused that in some way. How can I fix that? Well, I was smart enough between 9, at that age to really think about it, but it took me a couple of weeks to realize, okay, maybe I didn't cause that, because I was trying to figure out how I caused that. What did I do to make that happen? And when I couldn't figure out what I did to make that happen, then I realized, okay, well, I should have known, I should have been more open to know that it was going to happen. So I could have told my mom, so my mom could have done something about it.
Hmm.
Where does that come from, right? And when I was 9 and 10 years old, I used to pray and say, and again, I wasn't raised in the church or the temple or the mosque or the synagogue, right? I remember praying at 9 or 10 years old saying, God, please give me their pain and suffering. I'll carry it so they don't have to. Give it to me, I'll carry it. And I remember being scared to death that God would actually give me the pain and the suffering of all the people on the planet. But I was willing
Whoa.
to take it. I was scared,
Yeah.
but I was willing to take it and carry it. I just didn't want anybody to suffer and hurt. And so that's how I was up until like 7th and 8th grade, when the hormone dump dropped, right? When all of a sudden I didn't know whether I was coming or going, and girls didn't like me anymore, and I didn't know who I was. And I was so like weird and crazy. And through high school I got better through high school, but I realized in high school the only way I was going to make connection with girls, or at least in that point in my life, was to actually make friends with them. And so I began to really study relationships at that stage and learn how and what women liked and what they appreciated and what they needed and wanted. And so I became every girl's best friend. And it was great. I mean, I loved it, and I still love it, and I still am, and I can do that in a heartbeat, and I did that all the way through college. But what I also realized was I was putting myself in that place because it was an opportunity to keep myself safe, right? Because I didn't want rejection. More importantly, I was willing to take the rejection. What I didn't want is for anybody to feel uncomfortable by me being attracted to them. And so I turned that sexuality off. And then,
So you like friend zoned yourself.
I did
Yeah.
absolutely friend zone myself. Absolutely. So then fast forward about 10 years, well, 6, 8, 10 years, something like that. In 97, I moved to Tucson, Arizona, and my spiritual teacher said, okay, go home tonight. So this whole process from like 7th grade through college, like I high school, I liked myself. College, I liked myself, but I didn't know what it meant to love myself.
Hmm.
And so that was what was really hard, because I was like, love myself. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that means. How do I love myself? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And it's funny now, because even in the past week, I've heard 3 women say that to me. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, how do I love myself? I'm like, well, you came to the right guy. I'm here to help you. Right. And so what I realized when it happened is I moved to Tucson, and my spiritual teacher said, I want you to go home tonight, and I want you to pray. And one of the things I want you to pray for is, God, please just give me direction. Tell me what you want me to do and where you want me to go. And then just listen. So by this time I already had, I don't know, maybe 9 years of meditation under my belt. And so
Wow.
I went home and I sat down and I prayed, and I was, basically renting a room from a friend of mine, sleeping on concrete. And I had moved to Arizona with almost no money and a backpack and a sleeping bag. And so I sat down on this concrete floor and I started to pray, and I said, okay, God, I moved to Arizona because I believe this is what you wanted me to do. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. Just show me the path. And I just became still.
Hmm.
There's a big, profound difference between becoming silent and becoming still. And I became profoundly still. And this pillar of golden light, and you don't have to believe me, but I'm telling you the truth as I remember it. This pillar of golden light came through the ceiling, hit me in the top of the head, filled my entire life, my entire being, my entire body with light. And I heard one word: love.
Hmm.
And I knew in that moment, it didn't matter what I did. What mattered is that I loved people in the process of doing whatever it was that I did. And I thought, okay, that's cool. I can do that because I've been doing that my whole life. That's easy. Well, then a couple of months later, I started having visions of being hit by a car at a bus stop. And because of my disability, I don't drive, not yet anyway. And because of my disability, I don't drive. So I would often take the bus, right? Public transportation. So I started having these visions of being hit by a car at a bus stop. And so I started positioning myself behind the bus stop and beside it and in front of the metal cage, because, I don't know how strong and solid that is. And if a car hits it, is it going to fly out and hit me? So do I go behind it or go in front of it? And thinking about, like, which way am I going to jump out of my chair, and always facing traffic. And so for 3 months I did this. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine and I went out for dinner and drinks right before I went to martial arts training one night, and she dropped me off about a mile from the dojo, and I started to walk, and I was walking towards oncoming traffic, and I literally just walked past a bus stop, 25 feet from a bus stop, walked past it, looked at the oncoming traffic, saw a big black Toyota SUV wanting to come out of a restaurant on my left-hand side, looked at oncoming traffic and said, there's no possible way this guy's going to come out. Didn't think about my vision. Stepped out in front of him, and he gunned it, and he stepped on the gas, and he hit me on my left side, threw me out into 3 lanes of traffic. I was able to tuck and roll. I watched my wheelchair crumple underneath this SUV, and I had time enough to pray to say, God, whatever you do, please just don't let him roll over my pelvis. The driver's side wheel came to rest leaning against my pelvis.
Wow.
2 inches, he would have crushed me. I was tossed out into 3 lanes of oncoming traffic. Not a single car hit me. Not a single car hit another car. All of the cars were able to slow down, pass, or turn quick enough that no one was injured or hurt. There was an EMT team inside of the restaurant that this guy was coming out of that saw it happen. They rushed out, picked me up, took me across the street to the hospital. So I wasn't meant to die that day. I was meant to be in excruciating pain and have my life be knocked into present moment consciousness, right?
Wow.
Talking about conscious love. And so I was knocked into the present moment through pain. And so for the next 4 months, I was experiencing excruciating pain. I couldn't sit up on my wheelchair. I couldn't sit in the bath because it was a hard surface, and that was hard. I had a hard time going to the bathroom. I had a hard time cleaning myself. I had a hard time feeding myself. I couldn't go to and from work. This was when I had a regular job. Even though I was a motivational speaker, I still had a regular day job. Nothing, I couldn't do anything without pain for 4 months. And the physical therapist that was taking care of me, finally, after 4 months, he said, PJ, I've tried everything. I've talked to every mentor I've had. I've looked at every book that I've got. I've looked at all of my old notes. He's like, I don't know what's wrong. He said, I talked to one last mentor a couple nights ago. He said, there might be one thing that I haven't tried. And he said, I think maybe, keep your fingers crossed that this is it. He said, I think maybe your pubic bone got knocked out of place, and the left side or the right side is out of whack with the other side. So let me palpate your pubic bone. So he palpated my pubic bone, where you push through the abdominal wall and feel the bone. He's like, it's out of alignment. He's like, this is going to hurt, but I'm going to pop it back in. And, so I lay on my side, and he goes, you ready? I'm like, man, if you're going to fix the pain, let's do it. And so he proceeds to pop that sucker back into place. I'm like, ah, right. He pops that thing back into place. I'm like, oh my God. It was like an orgasm, dude. Right. I just realized I'm like, oh, right. And so, sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. But it popped it back into place. I was like, oh, oh my God. And this rush of life and energy flowed through me again. Like the night when I had that pillar of golden light hit me, rush of energy flowed through me again. And all of a sudden, no pain, but I was filled with this amazing sense of appreciation. All of a sudden, the pain was gone, and I was so grateful to be alive again. Whereas before I was resisting it and it hurt and I didn't want it anymore. And I didn't know what I was going to do and I didn't know how I was going to live. And so over the course of the next few months, I realized this is the process of learning to love yourself. And for me, in the 4-step process, or step number 3 is appreciation,
Hmm.
right? Because appreciation is one of the stepping stones to learning to love yourself. In that moment, I realized that that love that I learned about or was told about a few months earlier in my vision, it wasn't necessarily about loving other people. It was about learning to love myself so that I could help other people learn to love themselves. And that's when I changed all of my speaking from whatever it was that whoever I was speaking for wanted me to talk about, to talking about peace, love, persistence, and healthy relationships. And now I largely just focus on love.
Wow.
That's my story, and that's how I came to this place. Much longer than you probably expected. Sorry, I hope you weren't bored.
No, what a entertaining story, enlightening story. I mean, just listening to everything you went through. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that we have to go through in our lives in order to find a deeper sense of truth or a deeper sense of understanding something that was always right in front of us before, but we just were oblivious to it. We're blind to it. And for some of us, an event like that is maybe in some senses of the word required
Mhm,
to happen in order for us to kind of get knocked out of our pattern so
mhm.
we can wake up. Otherwise, lights are off, no one's
Yeah,
home.
yeah. We're
So
not conscious, right? We're
exactly.
living in that habitual process. And living habitually is not living intentionally. And if you're not living intentionally, you're probably distracted from the present moment enjoyments and the present moment pleasures. And what's life about? It's about drinking in the pleasures. It's about appreciating the things you love and like and appreciating the things that you don't appreciate or don't like. That's okay. Recognize what you love and move towards that. Appreciate, move towards the things that taste good, smell good, feel good, and move away from the things that hurt or the things that cause you pain or don't work for you. Let's find the real truth inside.
Hmm.
That's how you find the truth. You move towards what feels good. You move away from what doesn't work for you. And some people are like, yeah, but I got to go to my job. Maybe that's the wrong job for you.
Hmm. So you're talking about, you're alluding to something as in like the flow, going with the flow of life, or what is meant to be, call it alignment for a certain someone or that person we're talking about, or
Mhm.
is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In that flow, if we listen to our subconscious mind, we listen to our hearts, right? We listen to what draws our attention, what we like to talk about. That's the direction we're supposed to move in. But the problem is we've been so um, trained to behave in a particular way and have certain kinds of conversations and to find certain things interesting, that maybe that's not the real depth of our truth. Maybe the real depth of our truth we only discover when we sit in stillness, we sit in silence, and we find that um, that pull or that draw. That's what I want. That draw that's inside of us that says, "Gosh, I really want to do this." And then the question is, well, why do I want to do this? And the real answer often is because of freedom, or because of peacefulness, or because of releasing of stress, or because I feel alive, or because I feel like this is my calling. This is our truth. The problem is we don't live like this, and I call this soul integrity. Soul, SOUL, as well as soul, SOLE, integrity, that one truth that's inside of you. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with your job. It can, but it has to do with the way you interact with your own life and the life and the consciousness of other people.
Wow, incredible. And so this kind of segues right into another question I have. Right now, with the paradigm around love and relationships shifting and changing, what are some of the changes that you're seeing, and how can the listeners tap into those things and start to shift with them rather than resisting them or succumbing to them and getting stuck or entrapped?
I think if I go back to the internet again, modern technology, right, is we're a global society, and there's a lot of people. There's a humongous movement towards self-love nowadays, towards learning to love yourself. And so we could say, well, this is just reminiscent of the late 60s and early 70s, right? And that's true to a certain caliber, right? To a certain degree, because at that moment we had television. And we had television shortly before that, but we had television around the world, right? Remember the Vietnam War, there were things that were being seen in Vietnam and China that had never been seen by Western eyes, right? Except if, you know, maybe possibly you were an explorer in some way and happened to catch sight of it. And so in that moment, there was this process of, you know, loving everybody in the summer of love, and learning to love yourself, and right, flower power and all of this. Well, why? Partially because if we get connected if we get connected to ourselves, then with modern television at that time, you're able to spread that love around the world, and we're able to greet other people and other cultures with an open heart, but not with a closed heart, not with fear, not with resistance. And so now, with the growth of modern technology and the internet, we're doing it again, but it's happening slightly differently this time. There's different kinds of factors, and now it's about, hey, let's make sure that there's equality for everybody, and the world is uniting against tyranny, and the world is uniting against people that are suffering and that are starving, and people are saying, I actually can do something to help someone in Africa. I can help children in the Philippines or Venezuela, and they realize that their actions do matter. And the fact that we have the opportunity to be able to be of support and help somebody else and love somebody else and give our gift or our philanthropy, that philanthropic expression anywhere in the world, allows us to then look at ourselves and say, wow, maybe I'm not that bad of a person. Maybe I'm okay. Maybe I am a good person. And this is really beautiful, because the more love you have for yourself, and this isn't arrogant, cocky arrogance, but the more love that you have for yourself, the more love that you can share with other people. I like to say it like this. If I invited everybody over to my place and I was like, barbecue and PJs, and everybody shows up and they're like, what up? And I'm like, what up? And everybody's like, let's go get some food. I'm like, okay, let's go to the kitchen.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
apparently means go to the kitchen in my sign language, right? Go to the kitchen. We go to the kitchen, and I open up my refrigerator door, and I just go, because that's the noise all refrigerator doors make, right? And I ain't got no food in my fridge. How can I share something I don't have?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have love for myself, I'm limited in my capacity to love others. And the truth is, we often love others because we want to love ourselves. And what we make a mistake with is the in-between stage, where we love others and hope that they'll love us, whether we do that consciously or subconsciously. But the truth is, that still is just a stepping stone to tell us we're valuable and we're worthy and we're okay, so that we can actually love ourselves. It starts at home.
Mm.
Learn to love yourself. And that conscious love is feeling where you feel the love in your own body. I feel it in my chest and all around my chest and just below my solar plexus. It's this huge circle. Like, think Iron Man. When I was a kid, like, Iron Man was one of my favorites. And even when I became an adult and started studying this, I would love people out of that light in the middle of my chest. And so I do it now. It's just expanded to encompass the whole of my chest now. And so I feel it in this area. And so feel it, feel wherever you feel the love in your body. Feel it and get connected with it, and then interact with people, and then talk with people, and watch this softness come. Watch this patience come. Feel the compassion. Feel the generosity. Feel the unity and the oneness. This is the process of uniting the world. Conscious love makes the world a different place, but be conscious to love yourself. And it happens partially through sensuality. And I don't mean sexuality necessarily, but I mean sensuality, being conscious and aware of your senses in the present moment. What does the world smell like to you right now? What do you hear? What do you physically feel? What are you seeing? What are the colors in the spectrum that you're seeing, right? What does your body feel like? And then that sixth sense, what is your heart saying? And as long as you're connected to that heart center, that's where the truth and love comes.
Beautiful, my friend. Super beautiful.
Thanks.
Gosh. So you kind of went into my next question, but I have to ask, so how do people who are stuck in unconscious patterns, how do they start to see them? How do they start to get out of that never ending, or what seems like it could be a never ending, or a self-fulfilling prophecy? How can they get out of that pattern? How can they start to get out of it?
So you're saying unconscious love, right?
Yes,
Okay.
unconscious love.
So what we're talking about is unconscious love is habits. You're living from a place of habit, right? And so an unconscious love often is, how do I want to say this? So we're just going through the routine with our lover, right? We're just like, okay, yeah, she's my wife, my husband, whatever. And yeah, I kiss you goodbye and I kiss you when I come home, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. Or it doesn't
Right.
mean like what it
It's
used to
just
mean.
emotions.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
habit, right? I'm
Yeah.
supposed to kiss you goodbye, right? I'm supposed to kiss you hello. I'm supposed to hug you. So one of my clients, I have him now when his lady leaves in the morning, I have him jump up, even if we're doing a morning session with him, I have him drop the headset, jump up, run to his lady and hug her, and not just hug her, but embrace her and hold her and be present with her and feel that, right? And so how do you recognize when you're in unconscious state? When you're in a habit, you recognize it in a number of ways. One, you just simply go, oh, well, this is routine and habit. So there's no feeling and there's no emotion in it. So it's just all of a sudden the awakening to the realization that what just happened had no real meaning to it, right? And sometimes that happens when somebody leaves and you're like, oh, I didn't even know they left. So what is that? Well, I was
Mm.
distracted. Sure, of course you were distracted. That's part of, that taking for granted. Now look, healthy relationships aren't give and take, right? Healthy relationships are give and receive. There's a profound difference between taking and receiving. And so if you've ever felt, or you have ever done this, if you've ever felt taken for granted, the problem is in that very moment, it's not a healthy relationship. It may not be unhealthy. It might just be a habitual, unconscious loving relationship. And so when you start to realize, oh, like I didn't even say goodbye and it didn't like really even mean anything. It's time for you to become conscious again and put down everything that you're doing, jump up and go grab your lady, or realize, hey, you know what? I need to have some conscious love. So let me see what I can do to spark that conscious love and that one-on-one attention and conversation with my partner. So another way that you recognize, and this is the unfortunate way that we recognize that we're in that unconscious love state, is we start to become in pain with our lover, or we start to be in pain with our mother, or we start to be in pain with our brother, right? Or we start to be in pain with another, right? Someone who is not quote us, right? Notice all of these are like other, right? And so the thing is that you start to be in pain when there's separation. Okay. And so when you're in pain, when there's separation, the point is that what's calling out, usually when people are fighting and struggling with each other, is because they desperately want to be connected. And they're not either allowing space for that to happen because they're like, no, I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to let that happen. Or there's all kinds of judgment that says, no, you know what? You fucked up. Ooh, so holy crap. Sorry, I dropped the F-bomb. I definitely hope my mom doesn't see this now. um, but you screwed up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so you screwed up, and so I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to cause you to suffer, which consequently causes me to suffer,
Yeah.
right? And so the whole
Never ending
process,
cycle.
yeah, it's a never-ending
It's
cycle. So you
crazy.
get that, right? So it's just the pain. That's how you know when you're in that unconscious state, when either it doesn't mean anything to you or it hurts.
Yeah. So now, like a random question, something that popped up as you're talking about this, I'm also thinking of the people who are out there who they feel guilty, so they have to say "I love you," or like, mm, maybe they did something wrong or there's something off, and so the guilt is driving them to do something else. But doesn't that come back to self-love?
Yeah, of course,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what is guilt? Guilt isn't self-love. Guilt is I'm going to hold myself accountable and I'm going to cause myself to pain and suffer. Guilt is penance, right? Remember within old school Catholic religions and some other probably, I'm not going to say what other religions, but I'm sure there are other religions where they strike themselves on the back with whips, right? I think it's called flagellation, right? Where they're beating themselves on their back. Um, and there's a lot of other traditions globally that sacrifice themselves or pierce themselves or cause
Mm-hmm.
themselves to suffer physically, although that's not guilt. The flagellation can be guilt. And so what happens with guilt is I'm going to beat myself up until I feel better. But the problem is if you really want to make yourself feel better, you're not loving the other person. You're only focused on yourself. Guilt is singularly focused on how you feel. And we might think, no, I feel guilty because I made that person feel bad. Who are you thinking about? You're thinking about yourself. No, I'm thinking about them. Really? Why are you feeling bad? If you're thinking about them, release the guilt so that you can go to them and give to them. Well, they won't accept me. Okay, so What can you do so they can accept you? How can you apologize? How can you create a space where they are willing and receptive to listen to you or to reconnect with you? Otherwise, if you don't have that, the reason you suffer is because you're turning that in on yourself. You're not thinking about the other first. You're thinking about yourself. And remember, my definition of conscious love is the willing exchange of oneself for oneness. And guilt only comes when you look at yourself. When you look outwards and you love another, guilt dissipates because there's not space for both to exist simultaneously.
Beautiful. Beautifully put, man. And
Thanks.
the Catholics, they didn't teach that F-bomb, did they? Not at all? Sorry, I had to throw that one out there.
No, there's an awful lot of Catholics in the world, so I think they might have approved it.
It was ordained. So, so
that is the only time I've ever done that on an interview, I think.
it was completely.
That was on Solarpreneur Hour with Mike, and I forget his last name right now. Forgive me. And he's like, you know, we can't say any F-bombs, can't say any bad words. I was like, yeah, it's cool, man. Like, no worries. Like, I like to try not to do that anyway. And he immediately started dropping them. And he's like, oh, I told you not to, and I just did a bunch. So forgive me, anybody that I might have offended. I didn't intend to. I just wanted people to realize that that's how people talk, right? Man, I really effed that up. Like, how am I going to fix that? Right. And so that really gets into how they feel about themselves and how deep that negativity really goes. And it almost pins you to the ground. And I want that to be a visceral experience. It almost goes into you so deep, it pins the center, right? Think about Iron Man, where that circle is, or where you feel the center of your heart or your chest is. It pins that point to the ground, or pins that point to the tree, so you can't move forward, right? And that's guilt. And that's why we say, man, I really effed that up, because we're feeling so bad about ourselves that we don't allow ourselves to move freely. Pull that pin out, set it down, take a moment to heal your center, and find that love again, become conscious with that love again, and then press forward. And move forward despite someone saying, I don't want that love. They do want that love. They just might not want it in the same way that it used to come, because they're afraid. Be patient, because love always heals everything. It just might take a little bit of time before that happens.
Beautiful. Yeah, you know, I hate to bring it back up, the F-bomb, but, you know, I think there's actually some teaching. there really is. I think there's some teaching that our listeners can hear about it, because here's the reality. In a relationship or in any kind of love dynamic, things are going to happen, or things are going to be said, or specific words are going to be said. They're going to trigger you. And so what would you say to something like that for someone that all of a sudden says something? Because, I mean, I have clients that, well, I could be really graphic, but but just a certain word will trigger their partner, and so they cannot say it. So there has to be work done, if they want, around that trigger, so that way they can move through it, because there's a resistance piece there. So what could you add to this conversation? Because I feel like this is juicy right here. And it's relevant, because we just dropped one a minute ago.
Okay, so let's look at that for a minute. When there is a word, and this happens between brothers and sisters too, right? We know that there is a word or a phrase or something we can do or say that will push their buttons or pull their strings or pull their triggers, right? And we intentionally do that. So like you said, there needs to be some conversation around that for some healing to occur. And that's so critical, right? But here's the thing. That word is intended for a reason, and I'm choosing it, not me right now, but if I'm in that kind of relationship, I'm choosing it because I know it's going to hurt you, and I'm doing it because I lack power. Right? And anger is something that rises up in us intentionally to make us stronger. It makes us more powerful. We literally become 2 to 3 times stronger. We literally become faster. Our voice screams louder, right? Why does that happen? Because it's designed to keep us alive. Anger is designed to get our power back. And so if I'm using that kind of word, I'm using that kind of word because I'm intentionally trying to get my power back. So the conversation that you're talking about is saying, hey, I no longer need this word. It's no longer important. It's no longer healthy in our relationship. I no longer need this to be able to express myself. I no longer need this to get my point across. I no longer need this to get your attention, because you're in a place where you're able now to give me that attention that I'm looking for and need and want. And I'm in a place where I'm comfortable enough to come up and trust you enough to say, babe, can I have a hug? Like, I just need some love. Can we not go with your friends this weekend? I personally need some just one-on-one time with you. Can we go do something different? That's not easy for couples. But that word no longer ceases to have any value or any meaning the moment that they realize that they're becoming angry and frustrated because they need something. They need attention and affection. And when that other person realizes, oh, that's what the problem is, like, I'm just not giving you enough. If they're in a healthy enough relationship, then they can balance that give and receive. So what's happening when someone says words like that or comes across with that kind of anger is they're taking that power from the other person. Healthy relationships, remember, are not give and take, they're give and receive. There's a profound difference. And so if someone wants to give me love, then I can be open enough and receive it. If someone wants to give me attention, then I can receive it. But if I'm involved in a relationship of any kind, even with my, a boss, right? Or my sister or a friend, if I don't feel like I'm getting what I need, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to retreat and run away and create separation, and I'm going to look for it somewhere else, right? Or I'm going to act in a way that gets your attention. But if I've come to a place where we're healthy enough to say, hey, could you just listen to me, or could you spend some time with me, or I'm struggling, or I just need some love. I'm not feeling very confident right now. Can you just love me up a little bit?
And
Right?
that piece right there is so interesting because there's so many people that, especially men, it's not normal for a man to come to their wife or girlfriend for that matter and say, "Hey, I'm feeling a little down. Can you love on me? Can you give me a hug? Can you give me some attention, some affection?"
But that's what their woman wants. Their
Exactly.
woman wants
Exactly.
nothing deeper than for them to share their depth of
Hmm.
emotion and say, I'm struggling right now. Can you help me? You know what the woman will do? She'll be like, what? You want my attention? She'll be like, hold on one sec. And she'll run outside, right? And she'll talk to the first person outside the door and say, like, hey, can you watch my kid for a minute? Watch your kid. I don't even know you. But my husband, like, he wants to share his emotions and tell me what's going on. And he wants like get connected with me. Can you watch my kid? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, of course, right? And then they come back and they're like, yeah, babe, I'm here for you. Totally there, 100%. They'll give their kids away, right?
Hmm.
Just so that their husband will say, babe, I don't feel like a very good man right now. And she wants him to be her man. And in that moment, he's more her man than when he's in his masculine.
Hmm.
Far more, because he's saying, of all the people on this planet, you're the one human being and the only woman, even probably more so than his own mother, that I'm going to share this with, because you're the one person I trust the most.
Hmm.
And women have one job in that capacity: listen. Don't interrupt, don't judge, don't tell them what to do. Just listen and hug them if that's how they receive love, or kiss them, or hold their hand, or ask questions, right? Go for a walk with them. Make that connection in a way that they feel safe in that moment with you. And when you do that, what happens is a man goes, oh, like, I feel safe with her. And little bit by little bit by little bit, he'll share more and he'll open up more, and you'll have a remarkable relationship. But one thing that women ought to know, since we're on this topic, right, is it's really important. If you think about this, I'd love to do this in person. People get it better. If two men turn to face each other, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to make out, or they're going to fight. They probably ain't making out, right? And so what women unfortunately do is they say, babe, we got to talk. And they turn off the TV, or they say, we got to talk. And they go in the bedroom, they shut the door, and they turn to face their husband, because that's how women talk: chest to chest, face to face. But the moment you do that, you turn your man on, not sexually, but you turn him on to fight. Why? Because you're facing him,
Face
he's
off.
now shut in a room, and all he wants to do is get out. If you want to have a conversation with your man, go for a walk, sit side by side on the couch, right? Go have a conversation while he's working on the car, and just lay down on the ground with him while he's laying underneath the car working, and just listen, provide space. Just because a man is quiet doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't want you there. Often, if he's quiet, he is just doing his own thing. And if you're there with him, he starts to feel a connection with you, and you can talk to him periodically, little bit by little bit by little bit. There's so much more depth that I could go into that. And I just know that that's not necessarily where we're going, but that's conscious love, right? That's conscious romantic love.
Hmm.
There's that saying, How do you eat an elephant? And of course, the answer is one bite at a time. I like to say, how do you eat an airplane? Why? How do you eat an airplane? Why would I say that? Because back in the 80s, I think somebody ate an airplane, or a couple people. You know, there's an old TV show called Real People, and somebody ate an airplane. How do you eat an airplane? One small, safe bite at a time. How do you have a conversation about emotions with a man who's not very emotional? One small, safe bite at a time. And go for a walk with him, because the quiet times are much easier for both of you while his mind is processing and thinking about what he actually wants to say or how he's feeling. He's not really trying to say the right thing to keep himself out of trouble. He's just trying to process how he might feel, because women talk in feelings. How do you feel about this? And he's like, feel. I don't know how I feel. I think, no, not how do you think, how do you feel?
Mm.
Right? So it takes a little bit of time for a man to process. And if you're beside him and walking with him, what you're doing is you're creating this psychological bonding, this connection. You're moving in the same direction at the same speed with the same goal in mind. You're going to the same place and returning to the same spot. You've got this process together. There's much more to all of that, but that's just the framework. That's conscious love.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, this is really about taking actions on and living consciously through your love, through your relationships with your significant other. So on the flip side, so now if the woman is coming to the man, you know, for the men that are listening to this right now, if you can give us the opposite of what you just explained, you know, for the other side, you know, so what would you say? I mean, because again, this is all going back to how do you consciously love? How do you show up? You know, you're coming with your glass completely full. The fridge is full, so to speak, and you have the best food on the planet to offer to your partner. And so how did they do that on the other side?
So my understanding of your question, to make sure that I understand,
Sure.
is what can men do to
Absolutely.
consciously love their women? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I want to
Yeah.
make sure we're on the same page. Um,
Good
so what's
communication there, brother. That's
right?
conscious communication right there too.
Yeah, it is, right? So here's what I suggest for men. Number one thing, put down whatever you're doing when your woman says, hey, can you help me with, or wants to talk to you. If you're a video game player, press pause, get up, walk over to your lady and say, yeah, babe, what do you want? But pause for a sec. Don't do it quite yet. She says, hey, can you help me change that light bulb, for example? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of things that men can do. Hey, babe, can you help me change the light bulb? Press pause on your video game, set down the wrench, put down the rake, whatever you're doing, right? Whatever you're doing, walk over to her and hug her, or put your hands on her shoulders and kiss her on the head or kiss her on the cheek, or just hug her and squeeze her a little bit, right? And then say, yeah, babe, what do you need? Right? Because in that moment, you just gave her what she needed. Because watch what often happens. She'll say, oh, wow, that was uncharacteristic. That was nice. Thank you. And you'll say, yeah, babe, I love you. And she's like, oh my God, like you're totally giving her more, right? And then she's going to say, well, I wondered if you could help me change the light bulb. This is when a man can say, sure. Do you need me to do it now? Or is that something I can do a little bit later? And more often than not, if it's not really something she needs right now, she'll say, no, it's okay. You can do it later. Because what she really wanted was, she just wanted to know that she was loved in that moment. It had nothing to do with the light bulb more often than not. Sometimes it does. Hey, I'm trying to do something. I can't reach it. Can you help me reach it so I can keep doing what I'm doing? Sure. That's just practicality, right? That's just simple pragmatism. And so that's okay. So sometimes she's going to say, well, I really was hoping you could help me do it now. Sure, babe, no problem. Run over, take care of it, and then get back to what you're doing. This says, babe, I'm your partner. This says, I love you and you're important to me. But this says, I'm playing my video game. Can't you see? Like, I can fix a light bulb later. Just turn on another light, right? What does that say? It says, my video game and what I want is far more important. Babe, I'm fixing the car. I'm dirty and greasy right now, right? Versus, babe, I'm pretty greasy right now. Would it be okay? Like, after you go over and like hug her without touching your, or kissing her on the cheek or whatever, you can find a way to do it, right? Or even rubbing noses. She's like, who are you? You are not my husband, right? But when you do stuff like that, all of a sudden you love her up and she feels connected to you. You turn her on emotionally to love you and appreciate you. There's this amazing quote that, gosh, I wish I'd said. It said, boys make their girlfriends jealous. Or let me say this, boys make their ladies jealous. Men make their ladies' friends jealous.
Mm.
Be the man that makes your lady's friends jealous of her love relationship with you. Be the man that all the women want, not so you can go out and have all of her girlfriends and sisters. That's not what I'm saying, but so she knows she's got the best man on the planet, you. Another thing that women really want is when you come home, most men are like, I just give me a half an hour, like give me some time just to do my own thing. Instead, take your half an hour before you get home, right? Sit in the car for 5 or 10 minutes, breathe, do a little meditation, and then come in to find that love in your heart or wherever you feel the love in your body. Find that love, live in that love for a moment, and then drive home the rest of the way in that love. And then pause in the parking lot, do your meditation again for just a moment, live in that love, and then go in and greet your lady. Because all you need is some downtime, and meditation is your downtime. It's better than taking 30 minutes in the game room or 30 minutes on the Xbox or 30 minutes having a beer, you know, or 30 minutes laying down. The meditation aligns you and creates that connection between you and your partner. So when you come home, you have that love because you're already feeling that conscious love that you can now share with her. Remember, healthy relationships aren't give and take, they're give and receive, and arguably even share and receive is a nice way to say that too. So those are a couple of things, because, and also share your emotions. If you're struggling, sad, afraid, feeling less than, feeling like a failure, not good enough at work, your boss yelled at you and you're feeling crappy, just tell her, babe, can I talk to you for a minute? She's like, what, you want to talk to me? Yeah, my boss yelled at me today and I just am not feeling like a man. I don't feel very good about myself right now. Dude, she will love you back into your masculine. Let her do that. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you open and receptive to connect. Vulnerability is the one thing men hate and are so afraid of that we'll put on a shield and protect ourselves and build a wall. And that vulnerability is the one thing that women plug into. They want to plug in there. If you want a healthy, happy relationship, open up and let her plug into you so you can plug into her. It goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Beautiful, man. Beautifully said. And
Thank
so like when these shifts start to take place in the relationship on both sides, so
you.
how does it change intimacy, you know, and then create more of an enlightened perspective on everything moving forward in their relationship?
Well, first and foremost, women actually start to want their man again, right? When we've got men who are like, I don't care, babe, whatever you want. I don't care, babe. We'll go wherever you want. Pretty soon she's like, dude, I don't need you for anything. You don't make any decisions. You don't contribute anything. Like, have an opinion. I want you to at least have an opinion. So what happens when a man starts to show up and gives his love and his attention to her and makes her the center of his universe and makes her important and feel important, she starts to become sexually attracted to him again. And all men are like, oh my God, I just wish my woman would come on to me once in a while. Do this and this will help. Okay, this will absolutely help. Now, you know, some women are a little more timid, a little more shy, depending on how they were raised, but a lot of women will start to come on to their man again because they want to be with their man. Sex is about a power exchange, right? Intimacy is about that power exchange. Intimacy is a prayer where the masculine and the feminine unite in unity and oneness. That's a prayer. That orgasm is a prayer. That sexual act is a prayer. Now, here's the thing. Right? Intimacy, the process, how does it impact intimacy? Because she wants to be with you, because you're practicing conscious love. Conscious love means present moment love, right? It means I am here with you now. I'm not thinking
Of
about the
course.
past. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do in the future. It's now. I'm with you now. And so when I'm with you now, I'm feeling the pleasure that you're providing my body and what you're giving me. And I am open and receiving what you're giving to me. And all we want to do when we're giving is we want the other person to receive love. And so receive that love and don't be worried about how quick you are or how quick you're not or that it takes so long. Just receive the pleasure. And when you receive the pleasure, they want to give it. When you're like, thank you, oh, this feels amazing, oh, that's great, oh, touch me there again, right? All of a sudden, that creates an intimacy where there's communication and I want to give you pleasure and she wants to give you pleasure or vice versa, right? And so when they're allowed to give because you're receiving, you create connection because the act of being allowed to give because that person is receiving, you are also simultaneously giving to them. Just exactly like the act of intercourse, right? The man might be might be providing her pleasure and receiving at the same time, and she's providing pleasure and receiving pleasure simultaneously. So we're giving and receiving at the exact same time. And this process of becoming present, then we start to use it, we become more sensual, right? It's not just sexual. It's not just about wham bam thank you man. It's not just about just like getting off. It's about the sensuality of it. It becomes a sacred act because now I'm seeing you and I'm seeing the beautiful parts of you.
Yeah, it's not just going through the motions. It's enjoying it. It's being present with all the nuances of the experience of everything.
What do you taste like? What do you smell like? How does that feel? And being courageous enough to say, babe, will you do that again? Because anytime someone hears, will you do that again? That says, hey, I just did something right that you love and that you like, and I want to do that for you again. And I know that if I give that to you, the natural response is that you're going to want to give back to me.
Mm.
I get to be receptive and you get a chance to give. It goes both ways.
It's like, hey, I like that, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing better to hear when we hear our partner say, hey, I love that, or I like when you do that. And so what does it do? It makes us want to do it even more. And it creates this beautiful feedback loop where we're constantly giving.
Exactly. And ladies, this is really, really important because men desperately want to please you. Men desperately want to be good in the bedroom. Men desperately want you to have your eyes roll in the back of your head and your toes curl. So if you tell us, oh my God, I love that, or I really like it when you, we will do that again and again and again. You'll have to tell us, do something else, please, because we're like, oh, you like this, I'm going to keep doing this. So you might have to tell us, hey, you know, it's okay to move on from that place too, because we want desperately to please you. And it goes all the way back to when we were cavemen, right? It's about our primal nature. We fight over you. We will fight for you. And that's because, and we become jealous because we want to keep you, right? Because we want that pleasure. And so if we if we know that within that intimacy that we're giving you pleasure and that you love what we're doing, then we know that you're much less likely to leave us for someone else. So tell us what you like, so you secure in our minds that we're actually a good lover for you. And we feel much more safe and much more confident knowing that you're going to stay with us because we're giving you what you need and what you want. We don't want to lose you. We want to keep you. We really, really do. We want you in our life. We need that feminine part to protect our hearts. I love to say this. Women, I love it when men walk up behind a woman. And I don't mean like this. Da-dun, 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 boo, ah. I don't mean like that, right? I mean like a man walks up behind his woman and she knows he's there and he embraces a woman from behind. What does this woman do, right? She goes, she just melts into her feminine because what he's saying is, babe, I've got your back, right? Well, men equally love it when a woman will embrace them. From behind is really nice, but when a woman hugs us from the front, in essence, what she's saying is, babe, I've got your front, I've got your heart, I've got your feelings, I've got your emotions. And if she embraces us, then we feel like, okay, she wants to be with us. She's nurturing and giving to us. And that means that she cares about us. That means we're safe. And if we feel safe, then we can tell her a little bit more about who we are. And we want to give more to her. When we want to give more to her, it begins to her to want to give more to us. Just like you said, it creates that endless loop. Love consciously. If you're watching this video, if you're listening to this interview, it's because you probably already are conscious about love or want to go deeper with it. This will profoundly change every relationship you have. And this will make sex not something that you got to keep in the back room and you don't talk about, but rather that passion and that feeling will exude out of you. And people will be like, wow, you just feel like vibrant and
Yeah,
alive
you
and
just
sensual
radiate.
and sexual all the time. And not in a bad way, but in this amazingly like you're so sexy now. Why? Because you're claiming your authentic sensuality. This is stunning.
Mm.
This was sexy for men. When a woman is in her depth of her feminine, when a woman is profoundly feminine, I know two women right now that I can think of off the top of my head that are not classically shaped like we currently believe, in America to be a beautiful woman. These are voluptuous women, right? Voluptuous women who have large hips and large bottoms, and they're both so profoundly feminine. They're incredibly sexy to every man that I know who knows them. Every single man. And they're not what you see in the movies and the magazines and on, the internet, right? These are voluptuous women, and every man I know is aroused and attracted to them because they're so feminine. It's beautiful. That's your sensuality right there.
Conscious love, baby.
Conscious love, baby.
So you've given us so many incredible tidbits and so much wisdom. And so I'm curious, what's the most important piece of advice that you can leave our audience with right now so they can be more conscious in their love life? Now, I know you've dropped a lot of truths and do's and don'ts and really given us a lot of wisdom already, but like, what is something that someone can immediately take and just run with, and immediately it'll make a big shift in the relationship dynamic?
Anybody who's listening to this, I ask you to close your eyes right now. Just close your eyes and just listen to me. I want you to hear one thing that I'm going to say. You are beautiful. You are valuable. You are worthy. I'm almost in tears. You are gorgeous at your absolute core. There's nothing lacking in who you truly are. When you connect consciously with the love that's inside of you, and you find a time to appreciate who you are, and you start to speak kindly to yourself in the mirror, you start to say things that you like about yourself and to yourself, and you start to listen to your subconscious, so your conscious and subconscious mind can have a dialogue, and your subconscious mind can get out some of those old stories and old tapes and those things that you say to yourself over and over again, and you can start to say, I'm beautiful. I love me. I'm grateful for who I am. Thank you, God, for this opportunity. I love myself. And when you have that love for yourself, when you realize you are beautiful, you are valuable, you are worthwhile, you are important. When you realize that, nothing else matters, because in that moment, you have the heart to share and give to other people. Have that heart to share with yourself tonight, right now. And nothing will ever remain the same. Einstein said this. Einstein said, nothing changes until something moves, which is beautiful in the physical world, right? Nothing changes until something moves, and that's okay. But I like to say in the spiritual world and within love, nothing changes until you become still, deeply and profoundly still. When you still the negative thoughts and you still the self-doubt, you still the fears and the worries and the I'm not good enoughs. When you still those, everything changes, because the only thing left is the profound bliss and beauty of the truth of who you are. You are love, and now become conscious of it and share that love with the world and everybody you meet, friend or foe, stranger or lover. That changes everything. Find patience so that you have that space to give to other people.
Thank you for that, PJ.
Thank you for the opportunity. I love love. My friends always, they're like, yes, we know you love love. But I really do love love.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You truly love love. And I mean, I can feel it from you right here. And I know everyone listening right now, watching this, feels it as well. And thank you for modeling it for us.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity. And for everybody listening, I love you too. Even though I may not know you, I have love for you. And now it's okay for you to find the love for yourself. Man, woman, masculine and feminine, afraid or not, okay? Because it's time for us to come together as one. It's time for us to willingly exchange oneself for oneness.
So I want to know and share with our listeners, where can they find out more about you?
pjswisdom.com. pjswisdom.com. No apostrophe, just pjswisdom.com.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. You're going to want to check this guy out. PJ is just an amazing man. Heart of gold, as you can feel it, see it, witness it, experience it. And he speaks from truth. He speaks from his wisdom of what he knows to be true. And with working with all the clients that he has. So highly recommend, go check him out there. And PJ, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's an honor, brother. It's a real honor. Any opportunity I get to speak about love and also support a philanthropic organization, right? This is about making the world a better place, not just with love, but also making our money matter, right? So sharing that in a way that makes the world a better place. And you can do that in your own community. You can share your time, go and volunteer. It's a great opportunity and great place for you to practice loving others and appreciate who you are and what you have to give.
Awesome. This is Alon Torres again, featured author of the multi-authored #1 Amazon best-selling book, international best-selling book, Conscious Love, Enlighten Relationships, and Soulful Sex. Be sure to visit consciouslovebook.com/cause to learn more about the charity, what we're doing, get a copy of the amazing book for yourselves. And also included there are tickets to our live events, access to my other co-authors, as well as my own courses, our programs, and so much more, all by donating to the fundraiser. Thank you so much for listening. We wish you guys a beautiful day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Mwah!